And when
Going good. He stopped buying oil from Russia.
when do you plan?
And he's a friend of mine, and we speak, and he wants me to go there, and we'll figure that out. I'll go. I had a great trip there with Prime Minister Modi. He's a great man, and I'll be going. Yeah.
Mr. President, Novo Nordisk is in the middle of a 10.
You're planning to go to India next year, sir?
It could be, yeah.
Novo Nordisk is in the middle of a potential $10 billion acquisition for a smaller obesity biotech. They might need your and the FTC's help to see that through. Do you have any issues with that, or Eli Lilly buying a smaller obesity biotech from an anti-competitive
Well, I don't
standpoint?
know. Do you want to talk about that? I mean, I'd like to hear it. Maybe you should give us a piece of the company, like I've been asking for.
So
Give the United States a nice big chunk of the company.
So Novo Nordisk and Pfizer right now are in the middle of an acquisition dialogue and discussion.
It's you and Pfizer?
It's us and Pfizer.
Competing for the company?
Competing for the company.
Who's winning?
And as of today, our bid is higher. And our message to Pfizer is that if they would like to buy the company, then put your hand in the pocket and bid higher. It's a free market, and at the end of it, it has to do with basically the price that the seller is selling for their shareholders and the buyers willing to pay for it. This has nothing to do with FTC, has nothing to do with anything else.
Do you think it's
Is that a similar product to what we're talking about today?
It's a product, it's a series of products that will come to the market in around turn of the decade, where the market is very crowded with many, many other players as well. So it's the next generations of products, and it will come five. Yeah.
Mr. President, you say that
Zoran Mandami, you said that if he won, you would take drastic action against New York City. What kind of actions are you looking at, and will the ICE deportations continue?
Well, I think you have to look. If he is a communist, you know there's not going to be a lot of activity. So you wouldn't need bridges and tunnels and all the different things that were being planned for New York, I think. And look, I hope New York does well. That's all I can say. I love New York. I grew up in New York. I did well in New York, always did well. And I hope New York does well. That's all.
And the ICE raids, will they continue?
ICE raids? Well, you want to get criminals out. If they're criminals, we want to get them out. Ideally, we wouldn't have to do them because he'll send the criminals out himself. But that seems to be unlikely. No, we have to get criminals out. You know, millions of people were let into our country from prisons and from mental institutions and drug dealers, a lot of drug dealers and murderers, 11,888 murderers. 50% of them committed more than one murder. And we want to get them out. So whether they're in New York or anywhere else, we want to get them out. We've created a great place in Washington. All of you know, you see the difference between what it was now and what it was a year ago under Biden. It was a death trap, and now it's people walk down the street, they have dinner, the restaurants are booming. Washington, D.C. is great. I will tell you, Memphis is doing really well too. You're hearing those reports. It's companies were going to move out. They're not going to move out anymore. We've done a great job, and we've only been there for 4 weeks. So we've done a great job with that. But they have killers in New York, we want to get them out. If they have murderers, if they have people from jails that they allowed out of their jails in order to save a lot of money, we want them out of here. We want to put them back in their jails, not our jails.
Mr. President, quick question in regards to TSA. Would you ever consider privatizing TSA? That question comes to us from our viewers all the time, and I told them I would ask you.
I think of privatizing a lot of things, but generally speaking, you know, you have government, and a lot of people don't like privatizing, but some things that they really do, they work out better privatized. But it is government, and sometimes government can be better. It's something a lot of people talk about.
I've heard the government, as far as air traffic controllers, is 2 thumbs up on that. I've heard from dozens of pilots who have flown the last 90 days, particularly under all the stress of the government shutdown.
Right.
They tell me, Brian, that is the one thing the government does right is air traffic controls.
Well, we're going to do it a lot better too, because we're going to buy a new system. It's under bid right now. Bid about 4 different companies, all top of the line, like these 2 great companies, except, you know, in a slightly different field. And the air traffic control equipment is 45 years old. Buttigieg spent billions of dollars trying to fix it and didn't even use the right wire. You're hooking up glass into copper, and you can't do that. You know, if they went to a reasonably good school, they'd find out you can't hook glass into copper. And they spent billions of dollars, and it was actually made the system much worse. We're going to get rid of the entire system, put a brand new system in. It'll be expensive, but we'll have the best air control system, meaning, you know, the control towers. They'll be stripped down to the bone, and brand new equipment is being installed. And we'll give out that, it's a big contract, we'll give out that contract over the next 6 weeks.
Hey,
On
Mr.
drug
President,
pricing, on drug pricing.
Sir, that the FAA is going to have to cut about 10% of flights at the top 40 airports
Yeah.
because of the government shutdown. Are you at all concerned that it might not be safe to fly right now? And what do you tell people who are
No,
gearing
no,
up for
that's why
Thanksgiving?
they're cutting, yeah, it's a fair question. Sean Duffy announced they're cutting in certain areas 10%, and they want to make sure it's 100% safe, that's why they're doing it.
Mr. President, given these modifications that are being made to air travel, the other disruptions with the government shutdown, do you think it's time for Republicans in Congress to change their negotiating position at all?
In what way?
To start making concessions to Democrats?
Well, I think it's time for them to end the filibuster and just put everybody back to work. Vote in voter ID, vote in no mail-in voting except for military, faraway military, and people that are very sick. I'd like to see one-day voting. I'd like to see not 65 days of voting from all over the place. No, I'd like to clean up the elections. The border, we've done a great job. We have a great, strong border now. But I'd like to see new rules on immigration that can be fair and good, you know. But
Did
rules that you'll
Republicans
never
see-
get, rules that they're never going to get. There's so many things we could put in, including tax cuts that we could get, and we could do it all ourselves. But to do that, you have to end the filibuster. The filibuster is, and they'll do it too. They'll immediately do it. You know, what they're going to do is, what the Democrats will do is they're going to make Puerto Rico a state. They're going to make D.C. a state. They're going to pack the court. They're going to end up with more electoral votes. They're going to end up with 4 senators because of the 2 states. And they're going to do this 100%. They would have done it, except Manchin and Sinema got in their way. They would have done it. So if they're going to do it, I would do it. I would do it before them.
And you think
It's a
that
little
the
like
longer this,
Israel.
the
It's a
longer
little
this-
like Israel. Israel attacked first. That attack was very, very powerful. I was very much in charge of that. When Israel attacked Iran first, that was a great day for Israel because that attack did more damage than the rest of them put together. What I'd like to see is I'd like to see voter ID. Who wouldn't approve voter ID? The Democrats. Why wouldn't they approve it? Because they cheat. There's only one reason not. We don't have voter identification, and we should have it. If we got rid of the filibuster, in one day you'd have voter identification. The only reason they don't want it is because they cheat.
Mr. President,
Tax credits, there are some people on Republicans who would also like to see the ACA tax credits extended for middle-class folks who are buying insurance on their own.
Right.
Where do you weigh in on that?
Well, I don't weigh in it, but we're looking at all of that right now. We're looking at all of it. There are a lot of great ideas out there, including for health care, because Obamacare is a disaster. The Obamacare premium is going to go up 17 or 18%, and that's not my fault. I didn't want Obamacare. That's the fault of the people that put it in, the Democrats. And now they want it subsidized further. But you know, where you take it from them, you take it from a lot of other people. We could have much better health care at a much lower price.
Mr. President, will you be doing another one of these drug pricing announcements with another company, or is this the last we're going to see for
About
a little
what?
while? About drug pricing, deals
Oh,
that
no,
you're
everybody's
securing.
involved, and we're going to get low pricing from, all companies are being involved. We are now going to have, with all drugs, the lowest price anywhere in the world. That's the price we're going to have.
And will you have
That's
another
called
announcement?
favored nations. We were stupid nations before. We paid 10 times more, sometimes 15 times more, than they were paying in Europe and other places. So that was really stupid.
In 2 years,
Mr. President, you promised
in 2
you would
years,
lower
these will
grocery
go down,
prices.
the injectable prices will go down to $250, I believe, but American patients might still look at European prices and say, these aren't quite low enough to match that. What would you say in
Well,
response
then
to
we're
people?
going to match it, because as far as I'm concerned, we're at favored nations. If Europe is paying less, then now there could be other reasons. There could be a distribution, et cetera, et cetera. It's harder to get to. But outside of, pretty minor things, this is favored nations. We are going to be paying the lowest price in the world outside of some nations that are stone cold bankrupt, have no money, and people make contributions of medicines to those nations, including us. We're going to have the lowest prices anywhere in the world. And your drug prices will go down 600, 700, 800%. And I'll be given no credit for it, because I never get credit for anything. But nobody else could have done this. So thank you very much.
Thank you guys. 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 Any statement on Dick Cheney or Nancy?
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
And welcome to NTD Newsroom. You were just watching President Trump at the White House making an announcement on lowering obesity drug prices and at the same time taking reporter questions and saying that his administration is more affordable than the Biden administration, citing Walmart, saying that 25% lower prices for this year's Thanksgiving compared to before. Okay, next. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi will not run for a re-election in the 2026 midterms. She will retire after her current term ends in January 2027.
I have truly loved serving as your voice in Congress, and I've always honored the song of St. Francis. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace, the anthem of our city. That is why I want you, my fellow San Franciscans, to be the first to know. I will not be seeking re-election to Congress. With a grateful heart, I look forward to my final year of service as your proud representative.
In a video message posted on X today, Pelosi asked San Francisco to continue leading the way with progress. She said there has been no greater honor than to represent the people of San Francisco. Pelosi was first elected in 1987. She served as the first female House Speaker from 2007 to 2011, and then from 2019 to 2023. She stepped down from Democratic leadership 3 years ago. Pelosi is now 85 years old. During her 4-decade political career, she became an icon of the Democratic Party and one of the most powerful figures in Congress. She was also the driving force behind the 2 impeachments against President Trump. Pelosi's next steps are uncertain, but her exit will lead to a crowded Democratic primary in the midterm election next year. Nancy Pelosi has announced her retirement from Congress. Joining us to discuss is George Carrillo, former Democratic candidate for governor of Oregon and former director of social determinants of health for Oregon. And we have Angie Wong, Republican strategist and political columnist. So, George, I want to start with you today. Could you talk to us about some of Nancy Pelosi's achievements in your view, because she's had nearly 40 years in Congress?
So she is a trailblazer. She is the first woman to hold that gavel. Not only did she hold it once, but she held it twice, and both for 8-year terms. So she's definitely paved the way for women in Congress and also for other minority groups to be able to follow in her footsteps. She has participated in some great movements in the Democratic Party with really championing Obamacare, providing subsidies for Americans to be able to have equitable access to health care. She has been a real trailblazer in this movement of American politics.
I'm going to go to you now. What stands out to you in her political career?
Oh, no doubt. Nancy Pelosi has certainly made the history books beyond just being the first female House Speaker. She has driven a lot of the laws that you and I face today here in the U.S. And it's really important to note that she has been planning this exit for some time, and she's leaving on a high note. She just passed Proposition 50 in California. She wanted to leave the House of Congress in the hands of Democratic control. And Prop 50 is going to get her closer, because if Gavin Newsom enacts it and the courts allow him to, the Democrats could gain an extra 5 seats, which could throw the House to Democrat control. But again, she's also leaving at a time when there's a big ideological shift in her party between the moderate Democrats and the far, far left Democrats who won very big on Tuesday night. So I don't think she wants to play referee in any of this. I think she wanted to leave before the party was going to get a little messy.
So George, maybe you can continue on Angie's point about timing, because she did specifically choose this moment. Do you think it's the right time given everything that's happened?
It is the right time. The Democratic Party really needs to find its voice, and it had a major win on Tuesday, and now they have the win behind their back, and they need to continue to move forward. But that needs to happen with new leadership within the Democratic Party. We know that within our own party, we've been calling for new leaders to be able to step up, but we also need leaders that have been in these positions for decades to step aside and let new leadership and new ideas and thoughts to really unite the party. And I believe that right now it's a perfect time because they're trying to find their voice. I believe the Democratic Party is starting to become more centrist and not so far left-leaning, even though there are some very strong leftist progressive movements like what we saw in New York. But as a country as a whole, I believe we will be very strategic in every single race and how we move forward. And now's the time for Congresswoman Pelosi to be able to step down and let that new leadership take the shape of the Democratic Party.
So Angie, George is saying that the Democratic Party is more centrist. How do you view this? How do you view how Pelosi's retirement might affect the Democratic Party currently?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I agree with George on that. I see the Democratic Party moving further and further to the left. I mean, we have the rock stars who just won very big in New York and Virginia and other places, right? And yeah, some of them are moderates, but for the most part, Zoran Mondani is the new face of the Democratic Party, along with AOC and Bernie Sanders. They're doing their victory lap right now as we speak. They're all over the airwaves, taking big applause for Tuesday's win. Are they now going to step up into major leadership roles? It looks that way because AOC is already plotting. She just had lunch with Zoran Mondani, and they were discussing Chuck Schumer's seat, apparently. That's according to one source that just came out about a few hours ago. I think this is a great shift. I think the Democratic Party needs a new soul. They need to understand how to move forward, going forward, because largely they did not win in 2024. So they needed a win in 25, and they certainly need some wins in 26. Whoever the new leadership is going to be, you know, the Republican Party will be ready for them. I'm looking forward to just some life in the Democratic Party. For the most part, a lot of it's just been complaining. So it would be nice to actually see some strategy.
All right, so George, do you think there might be any impact of Pelosi's retirement for the Democratic Party's chances in the 2026 midterm elections?
Well, I believe now we're going to be able to fill that seat. We'll see with what type of Democrat will fill that seat. Again, I believe in, you know, she hasn't been in a leadership role for the past 3 years, but we are seeing leaders like Hakeem Jeffries and Catherine Clark, who is the majority whip, or the minority whip, apologies. And, you know, they're really leading the way. And when you look at their record, they're more of a centrist and not as far left leaning. And I believe that they're going to try to unite the party, be able to have more conversations with Republicans, and really be able to get the country back on track. Because I believe that the country right now doesn't necessarily like the far right nor the far left. People are more sort of in the middle. And people want to be able to have a compromise. And I believe that that's the shape that the Democratic Party is looking at. In this last election, what are we looking at is that people are really focused on affordability. They're really focused on the economy. And Democrats in the last election, they lost big because they lost sight of what are the conversations that we're having at the dinner table. And this new leadership structure now is starting to have those more conversations and really being able to work in the middle ground where the rest of the country really lies.
Okay, so Angie, George made some good points there. I'm wondering if you have any responses in light of what he said.
Well, I mean, Nancy Pelosi has always been very, very methodical. She is not one to shoot from the hip. She already has her successor lined up. She probably has the next 5 successors lined up. She is always going to be part of the strategy and leadership of the Democratic Party, probably until the day she dies. I think that she's going to be very instrumental moving forward because, as the video is playing right now, one of her legacies is, well, she hates Trump, and she clearly doesn't mind telling the world that she's going to rip up his State of the Union speech in front of everybody. This is what this fight is about. She's going to be playing from behind the scenes. She's going to be the mover and shaker, but from behind the scenes, because largely she understands that Trump's DOJ is also investigating J6 anomalies and possibly some insider trading stuff. So she doesn't want to be part of any of this stuff. That's the only thing I could really add. You know, the Democrat Party is not going to move away from hating on Trump. I think that is a strategy that has worked for them over the years. But I think she's just going to do it from behind the scenes these days.
So, George, can I get your response to what Angie said about Nancy Pelosi will continue to have political influence even after retirement? What do you think is the level of influence that she'll have?
I think she'll have great influence even in retirement. And politics is all about money and donors, and so she still has deep pockets with political donors, and I do believe she probably does have a successor in mind. And she will use her political influence and bank of donors to be able to push that progressive movement, the democratic movement across the country as she sees fit. But I think that right now the Democratic strategy isn't necessarily to hate on Trump. I think Trump's doing a good job of that on his own. Right now, he's tanking the U.S. economy. Right now, he's weakening the dollar. We're constantly seeing battles in the court system. We are seeing how he has overreach. And I believe that the American public is seeing that. It's not necessarily some secret sauce that the Democratic Party has created. Trump is doing that on his own. And that's what's fueling this Democratic movement. That's the reason why we saw just a sweep on Tuesday. And so that's where I think that the party is headed. And I think Trump is driving his own demise, and which will lead to a complete upset in the midterm election. I believe that we'll win the House and the Senate in 2026.
Okay, Angie, I want to end the conversation with you today. First, your response to what George said, and second, do we know right now anyone who might have a good chance of succeeding Pelosi?
Yeah, there's been a few people that are floating around already. It's only been a few hours. There's a labor leader in San Francisco. I've even heard the name Daniel Lurie being tossed around. He's a new mayor of San Francisco. He's actually pretty good. I know that yesterday, before the news broke, that Representative Aisha Presley of Massachusetts, she was talking about, I had thought she had wanted to go to the upper chambers, meaning the Senate, but I think she might also be looking for more of a leadership role within the House. So those are some of the early names that are floating. Clearly, there's going to be a lot of people jumping in. Nancy Pelosi probably already has her favorites, already has her pick, and her daughter as well. They were also touting that her daughter might jump in for this position. So we're going to see. I'm sure names will be floated. She still, remember, Nancy Pelosi still has another year in her term, so there's going to be a lot of things going around. But yeah, all of this, responding to George, pushes us into a redistricting fight. And that's what Proposition 50 brought on. I know in my state in Florida, we're going to be looking to gain 3 to 5 Republican seats just to give it a net zero on what California may be doing. Mike Johnson came out today during his daily press conference and said, yes, we're going to be looking around the country now, and we're going to play that redistricting game. So that is the next fight that we're going to take on. And it's a simple fight because Democrats, for the most part, had already redistricted as much as they could around the nation. Republicans, this is new to us. This is the first couple, well, it's not the first time we're playing it, but we haven't played it as hard. So I think we could probably, if we played it right, 13 to 15 seats for 2026.
Well, all right, let's leave the conversation there for today. It was a pleasure to speak with both of you, Angie and George. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
A Virginia jury awards $10 million to a former teacher who was shot in 2023 by a 6-year-old student. The educator had accused an ex-administrator of ignoring repeated warnings that their child had a gun. Stay tuned for more news after this break.
What are toxins? How do they get into our bodies? We are constantly being exposed to toxins in our environment. I've had detox protocol programs in my clinic more than 20 years, helping countless people. MixFix is a custom formulated, full-spectrum organic detox product to achieve better health and overall function. Detoxifying your body 3 to 4 times per year may be the single most important thing you can do. Just scan the QR code and detox your body today.
Don't wait. Call now to find out about our Medicare plan.
Why do we have to sit through so many Medicare commercials this time of year? It's endless.
Good question, Edith. I'm glad you asked. We see so many commercials this time of year because it's the only time, other than special circumstances, when Medicare recipients can change their plan for Part C. Original Medicare only covers Parts A and B, but a Medicare Advantage plan has additional benefits that Original Medicare doesn't offer.
So now's the time to fill those spaces?
That's right, Archie. And every year, there are changes to what benefits you may receive from your Part C plan. Call right now to find out what plan best suits your needs.
It's easy, easy, don't delay. Pick up the phone and call today.
Call now for your free Medicare review.
1-833-469-1754. 1-833-469-1754.
You may now return to your regularly scheduled programming.
There's a whirlwind of emotion and activity going on in this painting. And there's chaos all around and threat from below. The wolves surrounding her, and they're anything but unmoved. They're moving all the time, and we sense that. But this little girl remains unmoved.
She's in quite a perilous situation, but she's completely strong and serene, and she's actually meditating. It was very, very well liked because no matter what culture or what sort of walk of life you're from, I think people, they see it and they immediately understand what that energy, what that message is, and they're drawn to it because everybody kind of needs a little bit of that in their own life, of, you know, the steadfast calmness and something to hold on to. It's definitely an inner peace in the midst of something very chaotic, and for a lot of people right now, the whole world is very, very chaotic. So I guess that's another reason why so many people are very drawn to this.
Senators are working towards a bipartisan deal to fund the government and turn the lights back on. Some anticipate a deal is close to being finalized. NTD's Melina Weisskopf reports.
The latest in the government shutdown showdown, senators are working out the details of a package that could pave the way to reopen the government. Senate Majority Leader John Thune said a mini package should be nearing completion, and that will be the vehicle to carry a short-term funding patch that could last through the end of this year or longer. A minibus refers to a package of bills meant to fund certain aspects of government operations. Now, this package could also be tied to a promised vote on Obamacare, subsidies being extended, but that may or may not make it, and the lack of a guaranteed outcome has left progressives and some Democrats dissatisfied.
It's a vote. Maybe you win, maybe you lose. It goes nowhere. What is important is that we protect the health care of the American people.
Chuck Schumer said it publicly and decried that Thune and I would not go in a back room with them and make a four corners agreement on Obamacare subsidies. And I said, there's no way. That it was never possible or appropriate for that to be handled on a CR on a short.
Senate Democrat leadership has not endorsed this deal, but Republicans just need less than 10 Democrats to get on board with it if all Republicans support it to get it across the finish line. This ongoing debacle is an example of just how broken Congress is, said Jared Golden of Maine, the sole Democrat who voted with Republicans in the House to keep the government open. Despite the fact that Golden represents an area that Trump won 3 times, Democrats are optimistic they'll be able to hold on to a seat.
the last several terms working hard on behalf of the people of Maine. He's going to finish out his term. He will be missed, and we're going to hold that seat.
The self-described moderate announced that he's leaving Congress at the end of his term this year, saying that the increasing incivility and the plain nastiness in American politics led to his decision, also citing the increase in political violence and what that means for him and his family. He said that both parties have become extreme, saying of his own party, "We're allowing the most extreme pugilistic elements of our party to call the shots." Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
The federal government shutdown is now the longest in U.S. history, and the impacts are spreading to the skies. The Federal Aviation Administration says it will soon begin cutting flights at major airports if no deal is reached. Here are the details on that.
The Federal Aviation Administration is preparing to cut 10% of flights at 40 major U.S. airports as early as Friday if the government shutdown continues. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says the move is about maintaining safety in the face of staffing shortages.
There'll be frustration. We are working with the airlines. They're going to work with passengers. But in the end, our sole role is to make sure that we keep this airspace as safe as possible.
According to the FAA, the reductions are meant to ease pressure on air traffic controllers who have now gone more than a month without pay.
But we do recognize that the controllers have been working fastidiously for the last 5 weeks with this huge burden over their head of lack of compensation. And we are starting to see some evidence that that fatigue is building in the system in ways that we feel we need to work towards relieving some of that pressure.
Duffy says they have identified 40 locations where controllers are under high pressure. He did not say which airports were on the list, but the plan could affect thousands of flights across the country, from New York and Chicago to Los Angeles and Dallas. Aviation analysts say that could mean as many as 1,800 canceled flights and more than 260,000 lost seats. Major airlines are trying to assess how the cuts will affect their operations. United Airlines says long-haul international and hub-to-hub flights will continue, but smaller regional routes could be impacted. Frontier Airlines warned travelers to book a backup ticket in case of cancellations. Secretary Duffy says he knows this decision will inconvenience travelers.
I'm concerned about disrupting people's travel. We're coming into a weekend, but we had to have a gut check of what is our job. Is it to make sure there's, minimal delays or minimal cancellations, or is our job to make sure we make the hard decisions to continue to keep the airspace safe?
Tens of thousands of flights have been delayed since the shutdown began because of widespread air traffic control shortages.
Food stamp recipients will receive more aid this month than first expected. Trump administration officials said in new court filings that households in the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, will now get up to 65% of their normal benefits in November. That's up from the 50% level the Department of Agriculture originally announced earlier this week. Officials said the change followed further analysis showing only a 35% reduction was needed to stretch the program's contingency fund. The revision comes amid a court-ordered funding plan during the ongoing government shutdown. The USDA is using $4.6 billion from that reserve to partially fund SNAP. The program normally costs up to $9 billion a month. A Virginia jury has awarded $10 million to a former teacher who was shot by a 6-year-old student in 2023. The educator had accused an ex-administrator of ignoring repeated warnings that the child had a gun. Abby Zwerner was shot more than 2 years ago in her first-grade classroom. Zwerner testified she first heard about the gun prior to class recess from a reading specialist who had been tipped off by students. The shooting occurred a few hours later. She spent nearly 2 weeks in the hospital, required 6 surgeries, and does not have the full use of her left hand. A bullet narrowly missed her heart and remains in her chest. The jury returned its decision against Ebony Parker, a former assistant principal at Rich Neck Elementary School in Newport News. Parker faces a separate criminal trial this month on 8 counts of felony child neglect. The student's mother was sentenced to nearly 4 years in prison for felony child neglect and federal weapon charges. Special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, says a new country will be joining the Abraham Accords. We have more news after this break.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
During high school, I hung with the wrong crowd and I never graduated.
I helped Santiago in many different ways, like all fathers do, because he always wanted to go to college.
I felt a little embarrassed to come back to school, but eventually, once I came here, I knew that it's for a bigger goal.
He was very dedicated, hardworking. He connected with his teachers. He connected with other students. That was one of the key reasons why he was able to keep forging ahead.
It was amazing to see him graduate. This was one thing that meant so much to him, and of course, it meant so much to us too.
With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed. That support is everything.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
My 15-year-old son, Ethan, and I had a fun and relaxing morning. We returned home, and Ethan walked to his best friend's house an hour later. I heard the ambulance scream by the street, carrying my beautiful boy. Ethan was shot in the head in his best friend's house with an unsecured gun. He had zero chance of survival. The father, the gun owner, he stored his 3 guns and bullets in a shoebox.
How do you feel?
That has to be the most horrific experience that a human could ever have.
David, would you give any advice?
First thing you do is not keep your ammunition with your weapons, and that your weapons need to be locked at all times.
ICE authorities in Houston arrested 1,505 alleged criminals, including illegal immigrants and some really serious offenders, during a 10-day operation. Joining us now is Ammon Blair, a senior fellow at the Texas Public Policy Foundation. He specializes in border security and immigration policy with over 2 decades of experience as a U.S. Border Patrol agent and U.S. Army officer. Ammon, first of all, thank you for joining us today. So given your experience as a Border Patrol agent, just how unprecedented is this 1,505 alleged criminals arrests in just 10 days?
Yeah, actually, it should be happening almost every single day, to be honest. If you break that down, I think it was from October 22nd to October 31st. In those 9 days, so it was a little over 100 people per day in the general Houston area. I think if President Trump and Tom Homan and Department of Homeland Security focused their efforts on red states as opposed to all the sanctuary areas, they would actually be able to see this number grow exponentially. This is unprecedented given what we had previously, but unprecedented-ish, I guess you could say, light. If you imagine that on any given day under the Biden administration, we had thousands upon thousands coming in and flowing into the United States. We had over 10 million illegally come into the United States under the Biden administration. I remember as a Border Patrol agent that the largest group that I ever encountered with myself and a couple other partners was a little over 1,000 there in Stark County. And that is just in one day. So yes, this is great. This is a great first step. There are many more steps that could be taken so that we could get this on a daily basis.
So what are the next steps then that you are referring to?
Yeah, sure. To give you an example, Texas DPS, our state law enforcement agency, just signed the task force model agreement. That was on November 3rd. That agreement has been around since the Trump administration came in. It's taken this much time to get our state agency in a red state of Texas to actually sign an agreement with ICE. We have over 2,700 law enforcement agencies in the state of Texas. However, a little over 50 of them have signed a task force model. So we have, that is a beginning, yes, but we have a lot further to go. So if each county, imagine if each of those 2,700 agencies signed an agreement, worked proactively in a task force model with ICE and all of our federal partners and conducted operations such as these, taking criminal illegal aliens off our street, how much more would we get? Just in one state alone.
So, Ammon, if you take into consideration all the factors here, what would you say is the biggest factors or obstacles or challenges that's preventing immigration officers from carrying out these deportation efforts?
Yeah, first and foremost, like I said in the very beginning, the sanctuary policies in certain cities where they're actively thwarting law enforcement efforts, whether that's Border Patrol or ICE, to include our judiciary, who thinks that they can dictate how we conduct immigration operations. The next one I would say is actually local law enforcement assistance. Look, there's only a certain amount of federal agents and also ICE officers throughout the entire country. That means that we're going to heavily rely on, or need to rely on, local law enforcement. If you look across the United States right now, I just pulled up the numbers. Any of your audience can actually pull these up. There was only a little over 500 law enforcement agencies nationwide that have actually signed a task force model agreement. So that means that there's around a little over 10 or 11 agencies per state that have actually signed a proactive agreement with ICE. So once again, this is just a start, but man, we have a lot of work to do.
Those bottlenecks.
I'm sorry, you cut out.
Sorry, I was just asking, how do you undo those bottlenecks that you just mentioned?
I think it's information. I think a lot of law enforcement agencies, when we go around and speak, they have this whole idea and concept. One, that immigration is not their priority or shouldn't be their priority. That's a federal priority. So that's one issue that we need to get over. Transportation is also another bottleneck. The idea of, okay, once we have this illegal alien, how do we transport them? How do we house them? Where do we take them for detention purposes or transport them using our limited resources as a county sheriff or local law enforcement? And so really, all these bottlenecks have actually been looked over, addressed, and figured out in Florida. Florida's immigration enforcement operational model, the manual is actually published, has figured out how to overcome every single one of these bottlenecks. They have a transportation plan. They have a person that leads an actual immigration enforcement model across the state. Every single, I think over 260 of their law enforcement agencies in Florida alone have actually signed the task force model. So you name it, every agency that the state has that can sign the model itself, as well as every single organization, to include even their game wardens, are in this game. And so Florida, if we want to look at models or ways to break through these bottlenecks, Florida has actually shown us how to do it.
All right, so Ammon, if you could, can you address to some of the criticisms that has emerged in light of all this? So the Migration Policy Center cites data showing that about half of ICE detainees in August were people without criminal convictions or charges. The rest did have criminal convictions or charges. What would you say to those concerned that this operation isn't targeted enough?
To be honest, I think it should target illegal aliens. And that's it. If you are illegally present in the United States, regardless if you have an extra criminal charge against you, whether that's a felony charge or another charge, you are illegally present inside the United States and therefore must be removed. Look, right now, this is a war for our citizenship. The whole idea and concept of what is a citizen versus what is a foreign national or even a legal resident. What are your rights and responsibilities of an illegal alien who is not here, who is present, unlawfully present here in the United States? What is your rights and responsibilities of maybe you are a legal resident versus what is your rights and responsibilities of a citizen? I think that is really, at the end of the day, this is a war against the whole idea and concept of citizenship and sovereignty. And so that's why we keep hearing in media this attack saying, I should only target those who have criminal records. Well, every single illegal alien has a criminal record. They are here illegally. They were not admissible when they came through the ports of entry, and they must be removed.
Okay, and just to wrap up, if you could just address one more concern that some people may have, and that argument is that these illegal immigrants, they're contributing to the U.S. economy.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have made it so that we are dependent on foreign labor inside the United States. This is going to take a whole society approach. We need to realize that we need to become self-reliant and not rely on cheap foreign labor. Cheap goods is skyrocketing. We are now at a trade deficit with the world, and we can't even feed ourselves. We look at our farms and ranches and other areas of work, and we're relying on foreign labor. We have unintentionally built a caste system, and it's time to destroy that caste system, reestablish our constitutional republic, and not rely on cheap labor. Because look, at the end of the day, we're also exploiting them. Not only are they exploited by the Mexican cartels and other transnational organizations, they're exploited by large corporations, and they're exploited by us as the American people as a cheap foreign labor.
Okay, Amon, very strong points you made today. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you for having me.
A federal judge yesterday ordered authorities to improve a Chicago area immigration facility. The move comes after a group of detainees sued, alleging they were being kept in inhumane conditions.
It's not just that people are subjected to these inhumane conditions, it's that puts them in an inherently coercive situation where they are denied access to basic amenities. They're naturally want to get out of the facility, and at the same time, they're denied access to their lawyers.
The order will be in effect for 14 days. It requires officials to provide detainees at an ICE facility in Broadview, Illinois, with a clean bedding mat, sufficient space to sleep, and some basic amenities. An attorney for plaintiffs celebrated the order for improving the conditions of the facility and preventing detainees from unknowingly signing away their rights. Mayor-elect Mamdani says if ICE agents or anyone else breaks the law, they will be held accountable. This while the Department of Homeland Security says many video clips of ICE agents show actions done in self-defense. NTD correspondent Jason Blair has the details.
In response to a question, New York Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani shares a message to ICE agents and, quote, everyone across the city.
Everyone will be held to the same standard of the law. If you violate the law, you must be held accountable. And there is sadly a sense that is growing across this country that certain people are allowed to violate that law.
On Sunday, Mamdani also shared his view on a possible National Guard deployment.
I agree with Police Commissioner Tisch that we do not need the National Guard in New York City.
The Department of Homeland Security had been reporting a 1,000% increase of attacks on ICE agents. However, recently they're now saying that number is an 8,000% increase. Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons told Fox News that U.S. leaders need to tone down the rhetoric.
And the problem is so many on the left, and there are so many people opposed to us, that a lot of the tactics that you are seeing are in self-defense. So what I say to any elected official that doesn't like immigration action right now is to work with us. You know, tone down the rhetoric, stop putting targets on ICE agents' backs.
And Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says that this October, a record was broken related to border crossings. Noem says, quote, history made the lowest border crossings in October history and the 6th straight month of zero releases. This is the most secure border ever. In a document, the DHS reports that this October broke the previous record by 29%, which was set in 2012. Jason Blair, NTD News.
Coming up, Special Envoy to the Middle East Steve Witkoff says a new country will be joining the Abraham Accords. Stay tuned for more news after this break.
A performance that truly matters for each and every one of us. This is what you've been waiting for. Shen Yun. Get tickets now at shenyun.com.
This is an urgent appeal from Save the Children.
أنا صواتي بيموتوا من الجوع ما صرت أغذية كمان. بيغوا بالليل بيبكوا من الجوع يعني ما بنحسن يعني نعمل لهم أكل. أنا بضل باخدها بسكتها وما بتسكت. كمان مو بس أختي صغيرة جوعانة وأخواتي كل سنة 11 ويحمسوني واقفين بعيد.
For Tariq, Asha, and Kaltoon, watching their siblings experience the pain of malnutrition is heartbreaking. They are among the millions of children at greatest risk in the global hunger emergency. We need your support right now to help save children's lives. Please call or go online to give just $10 a month, only 33 cents a day. You can help us provide food, essentials, life-saving medical care, and help children who need it most. We need 1,000 new monthly donors this month to reach children around the world and right here at home. Please help children like Kaltoon so they don't have to watch their siblings suffer. Please call or go online now with your monthly gift of just $10, only 33 cents a day. You can help provide food, medicine, care, and protection by calling or going online right now and giving just $10 a month. Your donation today can help secure additional grants, which can multiply the impact of your support up to 10 times. And when you call with your credit card, we will send you this Save the Children tote bag as a thank you for your support. Your small monthly donation of just $10 could be the reason a hungry child survives. Show them they're not alone. Please call or go online to givetosave.org to help save lives.
Kids love it. Parents trust it.
Obviously.
Explore GJW Plus Kids Series and Ganjiong Campus courses led by expert educators.
This is spectacular.
Children will learn values like respect, responsibility, and knowledge in language, science, and more.
Wow.
All while having fun.
Perfect.
Subscribe today at GJW Plus Kids, where learning meets fun.
Special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, says a new country will be joining the Abraham Accords. Witkoff touted the agreement during a business forum in Florida.
Well, look, Abraham Accords are big. I'm flying back to Washington tonight because we're going to announce tonight another country coming into the Abraham Accords tonight.
Witkoff declined to say which nation will be joining the peace agreement. However, a senior White House official said Kazakhstan will be the latest country to join. Kazakhstan's president is scheduled to meet with President Trump alongside 4 other Central Asian leaders at the White House today. The United Arab Emirates and Bahrain normalized relations with Israel in 2020 under the Abraham Accords established by President Trump. Morocco normalized ties with Israel later the same year. Trump has repeatedly said he wants to expand the accords that he brokered during his first term in the White House. President Trump will host the leaders of 5 Central Asian nations today at the White House. His administration seeks to gain influence in a region long dominated by Russia and increasingly courted by China. The talks take place amid intensifying competition for Central Asia's vast mineral resources. Western nations are seeking to diversify supply chains away from Moscow and Beijing. The U.S. is pursuing new partnerships to secure critical minerals, energy supplies, and overland trade routes that circumvent its geopolitical rivals. Launched in 2015, the so-called C5+1 platform brings together the United States and the 5 Central Asian states, including Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan, to advance cooperation on economic, energy, and security issues. Their leaders will also attend a dinner with Trump at the White House this evening. And new concerns about China reach in suppressing unfavorable media coverage. The Epoch Times and NTD, 2 American media companies known for exposing human rights abuses by the Chinese Communist Party, were recently denied access to key Asia Summit events. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on the incident, which happened at the recent ASEAN and APEC summits.
An Epoch Times reporter traveling with the White House encountered repeated roadblocks in accessing key press events in Asia, the latest in a pattern of interference linked to communist authorities in Beijing. Epoch Times is NTD's sister media. Both companies were ultimately denied entry to the ASEAN and APEC summits. They were the only outlets denied access despite having received pre-approved press credentials. This occurred after a series of twists and turns involving communications discrepancies, unlikely tech glitches, failed promises of press credentials, sudden reversal of statements, and passing the buck. Epoch Times editor-in-chief Jasper Fokkert said in a statement, "The Chinese Communist Party is an enemy to freedom of the press." He called it deeply concerning that the regime could influence international bodies like the United Nations and ASEAN to block access for what is now America's fourth largest newspaper. Headquartered in New York, the Epoch Times has long been a target of the Chinese regime, from threats and intimidation of advertisers to physical obstruction of reporters. In 2000, its first journalists in China were arrested, with several sentenced to a decade in prison. More recently, UN officials barred its reporters from entry in September. The campaign has intensified. Hackers impersonating Epoch Times staff have threatened U.S. agencies. The paper has received bomb threats, and an envelope containing white powder arrived at its headquarters in October. Travis Gilmore, White House correspondent for the Epoch Times, arrived in Malaysia 2 days before President Trump joined the ASEAN summit. Gilmore had pre-approved media credentials. However, when embassy and White House staff went to retrieve the credentials for media personnel, ASEAN officials informed them that Gilmore's profile needed updating. Repeatedly, Gilmore said he found himself in the same cycle, being told to come back and pick up the press pass later, only to find nothing when he returned. On October 26th, the ASEAN staff told Gilmore he got a pass approval, but the credentials never materialized. Mariotsu and Chen Lei, White House correspondent and videographer for NTD, faced a similar situation when they arrived at their hotel in South Korea ahead of the APEC summit. Inside the hotel, a reserved media table at the press filing center bore the NTD logo, but APEC staff members restricted their access and stated they didn't have the pair's credentials. The media liaison team blamed a mix-up for what happened and told Otsu they had found her media pass, only to walk back the statement within minutes, saying the earlier message was sent in error. Neither APEC nor ASEAN returned the Epoch Times request for comment on the article about the incidents. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Tesla shareholders will vote today on a proposed pay package for Elon Musk that could potentially make him the world's first trillionaire. The 2025 CEO Performance Award would give Musk up to 423 million shares of Tesla stock over the next decade. The full value of the potential stock grant is estimated at nearly $1 trillion. However, Tesla must reach a market capitalization of $8.5 trillion within the next 10 years for Musk to receive the full package. In September, members of the board warned Tesla shareholders that Musk may pursue other interests if the pay package is not approved. Operational targets include delivering 20 million vehicles over 10 years, securing 10 million full self-driving subscriptions, and operating 1 million robo-taxis, among others. Russia is reportedly on track to complete its biggest capture of a Ukrainian city since 2023. How the fall of one city could lead to Ukraine losing the entire Donetsk region. After this break.
You are not hidden. There's never been a moment you were forgotten. You are not hopeless. Though you have been broken, your innocence stolen. I hear your SOS, your SOS. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you.
On streets across America, young people are homeless, abused, in danger. Covenant House is helping young people with nowhere else to turn. But the need is overwhelming. Please call or go online now with your gift of $19 a month. You'll help provide hot meals, safe shelter, medical care, and love to more than 2,000 young people who sleep at a Covenant House every night. Homeless young people are afraid and alone. Your monthly donation right now will show them they are loved and safe.
I have no words to express how Covenant House changed my life.
Call or go online now and give just $19 a month. We'll send you this comforting blanket as a reminder of the difference you're making in a young person's life. Call or go online now to safeplacetosleep.org.
Judge Napolitano here. Are you watching gold prices? They're not just rising, they're soaring. In just 12 months, gold has surged to more than $3,700 an ounce. And now, Goldman Sachs, the same experts who predicted that rise, are saying gold could reach $4,500 or more in the next year. So what's behind this historic move? Global currencies are falling and big money is in a panic. That's why big banks and billionaires are buying gold in record amounts. And as long as paper money keeps losing value, they'll keep buying. So do what I did. Buy gold from the only company I trust, Lear Capital. Give them a call today. You'll be glad you did.
Claim your free Gold Investor Kit now. Discover how easy it is to own gold, shipped to you or added to your IRA. Also ask how you can get up to $20,000 in bonus gold with a qualified purchase. Call 800-885-6000. 800-885-6000. 800-885-6000.